2020 was a year, quite an exceptional year, incredible year. But the end of the year, the end of the year, the end of the year, the end of the year is here. So if you think 2020 was fun, wait till we get to 2021. Oh yeah. We printed so much cash, huge piles of cash. It's gonna be a fire in 2021. If you want some normalcy, you're just gonna have to wait and see. And hopefully we don't say 2020 was the good old days. That would be some. The toppy string is flat, Zach, everyone's a critic. I won't admit it, even if it's flat. Hey guys, how you guys doing? Good evening, it's nice to see you all. It's a little flat because I lost my sense of taste. Turbos, if you don't like it, go to another stream where nobody sings. How you guys doing? Well, I've been out of it for a little bit. I hope you all are doing well as we're coming to the end of the year. I hope you had a good Christmas. I hope some of you got to actually see your families. We didn't get to travel over Christmas because we caught the bug. But we are better. I am better. I got it the worst out of everybody. It was not fun. But some of the tropical viruses that I had when I was down in the Caribbean was worse. I got nailed so bad. It was either chikungunya or Zika or one of those. I was just shaking, chills, high fever, and all that kind of stuff. This was a weird one though. This thing, I felt like I was not going to get better. I still am draggy. I am still so draggy. I have not had the normal high energy levels that I have. But I'm praising God that it was not worse, because people have had it way worse, and I had a light case. My wife had a much lighter case than I did. All she did was she lost her sense of taste and smell, which is kind of funny. She bought all of these herbal teas, and she had this selection of herbal teas, and she's drinking different herbal teas in different evenings, and she's like, all these new teas that I bought, they taste like nothing. They kind of taste like dirt. They're really just like hot water. I'm like, really? Now I could still smell at that point, and I smelled them, like they smell pretty good. But I have lost my sense of taste after like a week and a half of having the thing. I lost it. I don't know how I got it. I mean, it's not. I haven't gone out much. I may have gotten it going Christmas shopping. That would be my guess, because a few days before I caught it, we went out Christmas shopping, and I hugged everyone. I licked every doorknob of every store, and there you go. Got it. I'm glad to be back, and glad to be. The weird thing was after having kind of the first day I woke up with a bad headache. I'm like, oh my gosh, I feel horrible. I feel like like it's the worst hangover feeling, and I'm going, what the heck is wrong with me? And I was laying in bed, and it's hard to get up in the morning. I'm like, I'm gonna take some aspirin and see if I feel a little better, you know. And I did, and I felt a little bit better having had some aspirin, and then I felt worse again, and then I started to get this weird, really strange, creepy feeling, you know, like you feel when you get the flu. But you know, the first 3 days or so, I just felt absolutely miserable, barely feeling like I could stand up or anything. And then after that, it was a week and a half of kind of up and down, you know. But hey, Scott, nice to see you, man. Happy New Year. So you know, I still, like today, I fell asleep for about 2 hours in the middle of the day. I did some work in the morning, and then I was just, I gotta go back to bed. But I've been meaning to get back, you know. I've been meaning to get back and talk to everybody, do things. And now, if I don't show up on YouTube, for years, I have posted my website at the end of all of my videos, and that is what I maintain the most. My website is thesurvivalgardener.com. Thesurvivalgardener.com. That's my main website. That's where I've got thousands of posts, and that's where I post pretty much every weekday. So if you want to see what's going on, or read about what people are writing to me, and pictures of plants and different recommendations and survival plant profiles and all that kind of stuff, you know, you can find me at thesurvivalgardener.com. So even when I was sick, I managed to post multiple times. So let me just say hi to everybody that's here. Freakin' Dave, Benjamin, Babette, Jason, Baker Theta, Karen, A2, Florida Bear 911. That's funny. Derek and Ev, and Manga Dude, Chelsea Chase, Amazing Year Full Show, and Tina, Alan. Alan always gets me to come back and do the streams. He's like, I miss you. Why don't you do a stream? I miss the streams. So thank you, Alan. It's like having a boss that tells you what to do, and I haven't had a boss in years. So would you actually show up and do something? That would be really, hey, we'd all really appreciate it if you could just kind of show up and do something now and again. That would be cool. Hey, Jacob, Tobras, and Zach, and Crime Knight. Hey, welcome back, man. Bad Drivers of Columbus, Georgia. Great Works Chiropractic. And Benjamin said, I just planted 3 russet potatoes and 1 sweet potato outside in the cold with good luck. And Karen and Stephanie, Dana, Lauren, Betty, Jason, man, good to see you. So, Karen, thank you very much for the super chat. Karen says a $50 super chat. Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas, Karen. Thank you. I not doing the live streams and not posting any videos for a while. It is definitely not good for the YouTube revenue. So super chat, much appreciated. This is the lean season for garden writing and garden YouTube stuff. You know, people are not really thinking that much about gardening, particularly when most people right now are dealing with cold weather. At least most people that watch my channel. So, hey Lynn, good to see you again. So let's see here. Hey, got any questions before we get into what we're going here? Fern says, should I worry about my dogs leaving droppings over my garden? Merry Christmas, by the way. You know, when you ask a question like that, it's like, hey, oh, by the way, well, because dogs are carnivores for the most part, except for James Prigione's dog, who's apparently like a carnivorous. Carnivores, the manure is quite hot, meaning there's a lot of nitrogen in it because protein breaks down nitrogen. And the droppings will burn The gardens, now, that doesn't mean that they're not good fertilizer. I mean, there's a couple of dog droppings underneath the tree will use it, definitely, but if the droppings are, say, in the middle of a lettuce bed or something, first of all, I wouldn't really want to eat that lettuce, and second of all, it's going to burn stuff. Best would be if you could bury it. You know, if you find a dropping somewhere in the garden, just bury it and let it rot out underneath the ground, probably rather than laying on the surface. But yeah, maybe it'll feed the garden, but I would rather have the dog leaving droppings around perennials than around annual gardens that you're working around and eating from pretty regularly, you know. Dog presents. Paul says, I left my russets in the ground all summer. Will they sprout again in spring? Quite possibly. It depends on if they get attacked by something or rot in the ground. Sometimes when things are really wet and cold, root crops will rot, but it's possible they'll sprout again and come back. Potatoes are perennial. It's just that they're subject to various wilts and rots and pests. So, Ev, thank you very much for the super chat. It's good to see you around again. So, let's see. And Merry Christmas to everybody that I missed. Betty says, but we are getting all the new catalogs. Yes, I got my Baker Creek seed catalog in the other room right now, and I should be getting some more because I went around and randomly ordered some seed catalogs, which I missed. I like looking through seed catalogs in the winter. I actually bought my seeds ahead of time this year. I bought them back in August because I don't know how the world is going to be looking in 2021, and with how, you know, things have gotten so strange and some of the supply lines have gotten weird and there's been lockdowns and all that kind of stuff. I said, you know, I think I'm just going to order seeds ahead of time for 2021 so I'm ahead of the curve. So now at this point, it's just dangerous to look at seed catalogs because I'm going to end up with way more than I need. Plus, I've had some wonderful people mail me seeds as well. I've got this great collection of seeds now. Actually, it's some people that I wrote Christmas cards to that I knew were gardeners. I was able to take some seeds and redistribute some of the seeds that I got, like the overflow. I didn't get rid of like entire varieties, but busting into a bag of seeds and saying, here, you want some loofahs? Have some loofahs. I got way too many loofahs, you know. It's very cool. Zach says, I am still planting garlic. 200 pounds planted and 650 pounds to go. Holy moly. Waiting for a thaw to spread another 15 tons of compost. Sounds like market gardening there, farming. Good work. Black Willow says, good to see you, David. We got our hemp license, bought 300 plants and are building the greenhouse. We'll use it for hot peppers all summer long. Off-season, hot peppers and hemp. Just don't smoke the wrong thing. Oh, man. My wife was cooking once, and she threw some of the hot peppers that I grew in the garden into the pan, and they started to sear and smoke a little bit. And we had to clear the house because it was like getting pepper spray in your eyes. It was incredible. I know all about pepper spray in the eyes, man, because I've been out protesting and stuff. No, I haven't. I'm at home gardening because I'm a peaceful guy. But yeah, it was like, I'm guessing it was like getting hit with pepper spray because it was like, oh, I can't breathe. Oh my God. Oh my God. Eyes watering. Had to clear the house. Turn the stove off. Let's go outside. So you gotta be careful with those. Karen says, my tomato seedlings are ready to be potted up. Started a couple of weeks early this year. Good work. I am waiting. I've got to get a little greenhouse or something. My friend Mark gave me an LED, extra like LED shop light that I've got to hang up somewhere and put out, put some transplants under. But I mean, we had a 23-degree night the other day, and that was brutal. You know, stuff is really getting burned. Even I had pulled some bananas onto the back porch. Now, it's a screen porch, but usually the thermal mass of a porch area is enough to keep things from getting burned. And I'd put some potted bananas back there, and their leaves have turned brown from that 23 degrees. They got nailed, and I'm actually surprised that they got nailed so bad. So it's pretty rough. So I think that I should be starting transplants probably about 2 weeks, the brassicas. So I would have them to put out mid-February, I would say, beginning of March. But I've got to learn a new climate again, so there you go. I I've gotten, you know, since we're talking about prepping for 2021, I have gotten my seeds ahead of time, and I will probably do quite a bit of direct seeding, but I have found that the soil here is so bad that a lot of the direct seeding that I did for the test beds ended up wrecked. A lot of them didn't come up, or they came up and then they got damping off diseases, or something ate them beneath the ground and they died and they wilted. So the direct seeding is not working all that great. So I'm thinking probably should start some stuff in some perfect conditions and then put them out in the garden. I want to do what I was doing down on the island with the rows, like 4-foot wide beds with 2-foot wide pathways in between, and in those 2-foot wide pathways you just keep those weeded, and then on the actual 4-foot beds you have a mixture of perennials and annuals, like permaculture row gardens with small trees and berries and all kinds of cool stuff. So you've got this mess of perennials and annuals intercropped, flowers mixed in with some chop and drop. So it's like these strips of mini food forests. It is the coolest stinking thing, and I just got it perfect this year, and then 2020 just messed me up. I had the most awesome garden that I've ever had in my entire life. You could see it in my video, Vertical Gardening, the Permaculture Way, where that was like the last awesome video that I did before the lockdowns and everything got so bad and the culture got weird and we fled. But that tropical garden was unbelievable. But now I have been transplanted to Alabama and I have really bad grit and freezing weather. So I'm going to try and recreate it with a mixture of mild climate temperate species, which ought to be very interesting. And actually, you know, I complain about leaving the best garden ever, but everything is an experiment and an adventure. And I'm actually really excited about having terrible soil and, you know, sand and a different amount of rainfall and cold seasons and warm seasons and super hot summers compared to what we had. You know, very hot summers and cold for me winters, you know, zone 8 winters. So 23 degrees, and you get weather down in the teens now and again. But I'm actually excited about it because I think a lot of the principles that I've been experimenting with, that I experimented with in the tropics, will carry over if I am using my own good gardener, you know, experimental philosophies and things that I have worked with over the years. The intercropping and feeding the soil and using a wide mix of different amendments, keeping things in controllable rows, but mixing up the species in it, so it's like going shopping through this incredible garden of flowers and small fruits and other things. I want to get some strawberries, and I don't know where I can get strawberries yet. If anybody has a recommendation for a good place to get some strawberry starts, I think I would like to try strawberries again and mix them in. The experiment with the amendments, I wanted to do a video today, but I didn't get to it because I was just really burnt out and tired. And I need to do a video for you guys on the way the experimental amendment beds are going, because there's some very interesting data that has accumulated there. The Steve's Mix bed, now the beds that didn't have any organic material in them did not have as good a germination rate. A lot of stuff got apparently killed in the soil. The ones that had more organic matter had less mortality, lower mortality rate on seedlings. So I have learned that the very best of the beds that we did, the 12 beds, were the charged biochar, lots of crushed biochar in the ground, a ton of it, and the lasagna garden, and the Steve's Mix bed. The Steve's Mix bed actually has the best shaped and best growing radishes out of those three, but I'm thinking that an ideal combination would be to have a biochar mix, maybe with some mulch cover and manure, so we get that organic matter that would be in a lasagna garden, and then the micronutrient mix from Steve's mix. I think you would get something absolutely unbelievable. I think it would be a fantastic way to make a long-term garden system. For instance, Rain Tree website. Let me see here. Going back here. I don't want to miss anybody. Kevin said, cut my arm today. Needed 8 stitches. Pray for a fast recovery. All right. Hey, let's pray for Kevin, guys. Father, we pray for Kevin. Pray that you'll have mercy on him, Lord. We thank thee that he was able to get the stitches. Pray that he'll heal quickly, Lord, and that he'll be able to get back to work. And you'll have your hand on him, Lord. And thank you for protecting him. Thank you that it wasn't worse. And just watch over him in Jesus' name. Amen. Get better, Kevin. That's pretty scary. I have, as a person who has cut himself on accident, it's not some sort of a weird syndrome or something, on accident with a machete. I know the feeling, and it is scary when you get a nasty cut and it gaps and you, oh man, oh. Shane says, I heard aloe vera is a natural rooting hormone. Do you think I could propagate a loquat cutting using the aloe cutting? It is possible. Shane, you know, people will say that loquats don't start well from cuttings, but they were starting them at Grandiflora Nursery in the Gainesville area. They had them going from cuttings, and there were cuttings like that big with leaves on them, like that big of, I would say probably semi-hardwood end tips, and they were growing. I think they were starting them under mist, and I asked the guy. I said, I thought these things didn't start well from cuttings, and he said, no, we start them, but I think they were starting them in a mist house, and when you have a mist house, they never dry out. Plus the repeating mist makes a big difference in propagation. When I had my plant nursery, it was indispensable because you could root things that would take 2 or 3 months to root. And instead of damping off or rotting into like a real high humidity type of a bag or tent system, they were wet all the time, but like the mold spores and everything were constantly getting rinsed off by the blast of mist. Like every 7 minutes, it runs for 8 seconds or 10 seconds of mist, and it makes a big difference. Somehow it really stimulates the growth, so it's possible. Freaking Dave says, what do you mean the culture got weird? Our neighbors were not talking to us anymore, and it was obvious that we were not wanted there, and they kept asking us if we were going to go home. And there were some protests and stuff, and we just realized we gotta go. So it was not great. All right, keep going. Paul says you can find a crop that likes your soil. Absolutely. And that's that's what I did when I wrote Totally Crazy Easy Florida Gardening. What I did was I tested different things, anything I was interested in, anything that looked interesting, anything people would say, hey, did you ever try this? Did you ever try this? I planted stuff for multiple years, and then the ones that really did well, I ended up building my garden plans around, and then I ended up writing a book on the concept. Find the stuff that grows in your climate, grow that first, and then, branch out from there. You can get into the touchy stuff like growing beefsteak tomatoes or whatever you want to do. You can work hard to grow those things in Florida if you feel like it. But if you have a basis of crops that already love Florida and you build out from that core set, you will always have a productive garden. And then you build out from there. Some stuff is so easy in Florida. It's a weed. Like the Dioscorea alata, the yams. They're ridiculous. They're like weeds. Coccinea grandis literally is a weed, and you can get all these cucumbers, way more cucumbers than you get off of normal cucumbers, straight 8 or whatever, Hey, Paul in Orlando. Kevin was fixing a machete. I feel like somehow I'm responsible for this. Oh my gosh, almost hit an artery. Ah. Florida Bear 911 says, what are your thoughts on gardening with the moon phases? That is a great question. I am not even organized to remember what day of the week it is most of the time. If it wasn't for going to church on Sundays, I think I would forget the day completely, and I would forget the months. I Now, that said, that's a personal failing. That has nothing to do with how I feel about the idea of gardening with the phases of the moon. There are a lot of things that fall into the not really sure what science says about this, but some people swear by it category. And I think that scientists are faulty as well. And I think that people come to science even with preconceived notions of, we're looking for this thing, so that's what they find. Or the research money is coming from this angle or whatever. So when somebody says, well, I believe in science, it's like, yes, I believe in science, but I don't necessarily believe in scientists. There are a lot of things that we accept as common knowledge that may not be correct. And pretty much the paradigm of what we believe seems to get flipped moderately often. Like the climate is changing. In the 1970s, the Earth was going to be buried under ice. By the time I was a kid, we were all going to roast. So the paradigm, new information comes in, new data, new theories, and things are changing all the time. So we go, well, if you just blindly follow, well, there's no scientific reason to garden by the phases of the moon. That doesn't mean that gardening by the phases of the moon is not a good idea. Down in the Caribbean, a lot of people planted with the phases of the moon. They also planted along with the Catholic holiday calendar, which was kind of interesting. And I won't say that doesn't work. They would tell me that the roots would be bigger if they planted in this moon, and the roots would not be as good, but you would have more leaves if you planted in the other moon. So if you wanted fruiting plants, you had to plant at this time of the month. And if you wanted rooting plants to do better, you planted this time of the month. And they said that it worked. And they all did it. Now, I have never really played around with it, because generally I just go, I have some seeds and I need to go out and plant, and I'm not really paying much attention. But, people have done things like play rock and roll for their music, for their plants, and they find out that, plants absolutely love They Might Be Giants, but they're not a big fan of Rat. Oh, it's interesting. It's cool. It's a data point. And what may work for you may not work for someone else. And there's a lot of stuff going on. I was reading this very interesting set of information on the transmutation of elements, of possibly next door elements to each other getting transformed by biological processes, which everybody believes is impossible, and I generally believe that's impossible too. This is why we mix specific elements. We add selenium, when something is low in selenium, or we add calcium, we add potassium, but there were some experiments in the 1800s and 1900s which seemed to show elements appearing when they weren't supposed to appear. But via biological processes, which may relate to some of what Elaine Ingram has taught about the health of the soil, and who knows? It's possible. Just because the consensus at this point doesn't say that that's possible, or says that that's completely impossible, doesn't mean that it's completely impossible, because we don't have all knowledge, and things are getting flipped all the time. So, if you're interested in planting with the phases of the moon, plant with the phases of the moon and see if you see any differences. Plant some of your gardens with and some without, and see if it's different. And maybe it's even weirder than that. Maybe if you believe in it, it works, but if you don't believe in it, it doesn't work. I don't know. Hey, Donna Larson, nice to see you again. Milking a cow and feeding bottle babies. That sounds like so much fun. Feeding bottle babies. Jack says, I visited with a friend in Morriston, Florida, who said he met you at a community meeting. Are you near there now? No. No. It's interesting. Unless it's my doppelganger. It used to be common knowledge that the world was flat, and now it's common knowledge again, at least on the internet. Whoa. Whoa. Diana says, so many people are so happy to see you back. Count us here in Floral City, Florida. Thank you. I really appreciate it. Any suggestions for soil that's hard to grow in? Yeah. Well, first of all, plant the plants that like the climate first. You know, ask all the neighbors what's the easiest thing to grow, and then grow that first. But you really can't go wrong with adding compost, and you know, if the soil is really poor in organic matter, you know, and definitely get it some micronutrients from somewhere. You can see the videos that I did with Steve Solomon's mix, and that is done quite well. If you look at Steve Solomon soil mix, it's really complicated, but the sheer amount of micronutrients in there, the plants are really doing well. So it's totally possible. Everything is electric and a frequency. I know. I learned that everything is electric from the electric slide. It's electric. Woogie, woogie, woogie is actually a deep statement on the theory of the universe, the electric universe theory. So yeah, let's see what we got here. Water has memory. There we go. Crazy man. Plant sorcery. That's right. Anna says, I do try to plant by the way, nice to see you again, Anna. Roots in the down moon, leaves in the upswing. That's what I was told. So there's quite a few Rastas that agree with you. Black Eyed Peas like pop dance music. That's good. Apothecary Custom says, is Albemarle's Manihot worth it in Central Florida? How did you like the taste? If you tried it in the past, yes. I love it. It's a fantastic plant. In Central Florida, I would plant it in a sheltered location. It is excellent. It is pretty sensitive to frost, but the leaves are very good. They are an excellent salad base. Albemarle's Manihot, for those of you that don't know, is an edible leafed hibiscus variety. Very good. Echo in South Florida, Fort Myers, has a few varieties of it, and I don't have it anymore. I had some down in the tropics, absolutely loved it. I had it in the South Florida Food Forest Project, but it died out eventually. It got overrun by a more vigorous hibiscus and some katuk. Belinda says, hey David, we live about 100 miles west of you, been gardening over 30 years. Oh, very good. On very poor soil. We're probably in the same geological band. We use a combination of techniques. Biochar is really good. Thanks for your efforts. Well, thank you. If you want to, Belinda, I would love it if you wrote up like just a brief overview of what you have used, because that it's always interesting to have other data points, particularly with your 30 years gardening, 30 years on poor soil, and saying biochar is good. There's not a lot of excellent data on biochar yet. So if you write what has worked for you, I would absolutely love to post it to the Survival Gardener. Anon H says, how often can you use diluted urine? Once a week, twice a week? You could use it once a week or twice a week. It just depends on how diluted it is. If you are applying too much nitrogen, the plants will start to overgrow their leaves and they'll start to burn. That's no good. But I mean, if you're putting like 1 part urine to 10 parts water, you could probably water with that all the time. You know, higher concentrations, you know, would be less application. Alan says, so much life revolves around the cycle of the moon that there's likely to be a noticeable effect if you do it right. Yeah, I remember watching in a little informational film on planting and growing vanilla orchids, and they would actually work with the vanilla orchids and do their pruning and planting and stuff in different seasons, because during one season of the moon, one part of the moon cycle, the plants had higher turgidity and they would snap and break, but in the other cycle of the moon, the plants were you could move them without them snapping and breaking, but they actually would hold more fluid in the tissues. So if you were going to be tying up some of your vanilla orchids, you had to do it in the right season. This is crazy. Donna says, are you planting anything now? No, not right now. The last 3 weeks I've been ill and I haven't done much at all. There's videos that I should have been doing and book stuff I should have been working on and all kinds of things. But it's been cold and nothing really wants to grow much right now. You know, when you get to this time of the year, even though the climate is not that cold and it's mild, if stuff doesn't already have a running start, it's kind of too late, you know. When I get into February, I'll probably start planting again. That's when I'll get going. Zach says, any tips to help a leggy pineapple plant that is falling over? 8-year-old white pineapple plant growing indoors up north. Yeah, it probably needs more light. But you can probably also repot it and bury it a little deeper. I don't know if that'll kill it or not, but let's hope not. It probably needs just mostly more light. Let's see here. Canix Rayu says, okay to use shredded leaves as mulch in garden beds in spring and summer. Is this the best use of this resource? If you like to have mulch in your garden beds, it depends what I'm growing. I prefer the leaves for making compost and for perennial beds. If I'm going to do annual beds, I do a lot more turning of the ground, and I love to use a wheel hoe to weed really quickly and to do wide spacing. So for the market garden stuff, no, but the shredded leaves break down pretty fast, and they are a good long-term slow nutrient and organic matter addition. So if you've got stuff, if you want to do the no dig thing, you shredded leaves are great, and they don't tend to mat up as much as the regular leaves off the tree. Sometimes you get a bunch of leaves overlapping each other and they'll mat together and they'll actually keep water from coming through, which is not good. Shredded leaves are good. I would take the shredded leaves and mix them with a nitrogen source, probably make compost out of them, or I would use them for mulch around fruit trees because they love that. Ken says, we received 3,500 pounds of wood chips for our community garden. Oh, that's awesome, Ken. That's a lot of potential soil fertility and fungal food and humus. Very cool. Try Indiana Berry. They may have strawberries for me. Thank you. Indiana Berry. Alejandra, thank you very much. Alejandra sends a super chat and says, thank you for answering our questions. Hope you feel better soon. Thank you. I am feeling much better. It was a drag. I would not like to have the virus again, but I probably won't for a while. Suki says scientists are only human. Yes, that's true. Alejandra says, hey David, you need to get some Tokyo Bacana cabbage seeds for spring. They are delicious. You can harvest leaves for months, eat raw or cooked. I grow them in South Florida winter up to late spring heat. Okay, I'm gonna look that up. I have not seen that variety. It's time to play Stump David the Good. It's not that hard. Oh, okay. Oh, this is cool. It's kind of like a cross between a pretty pak choi and a mustard. We planted so much pak choi this year. Hey, it's time to prep. Let's plant 1,000 pak choi plants. Oh, the kids don't like to eat pak choi. They're very pretty. Johnny Seeds. Okay, cool. You're gonna send me to... I told you I have a problem. I should not be looking at any more seeds. I have a problem. Hey, Leaf, have a good night. It's good to see you. Lauren, have a good night. I will try not to overdo it. I did go out and work in the garden a little bit today. What superpower did the virus give me? It gave me compassion for other people who are sick over Christmas. Don says, David, please say again the name of the cucumber that really is a weed in Florida. It is called Coccinea grandis, and I'm going to write it and stick it in the chat. Also known as ivy gourd. Oh boy. Apothecary Custom says, I have a starfruit tree that has been in the ground for about 3 years and is giving fruit now, but it hasn't grown at all. Any tips? I just placed about 6 inches of wood chips on them a few months ago. That was really good. Water, like irrigation, wood chips. I would also give it some sort of fertilizer. Give it a bump. Mine were not, the one that I had in South Florida was not doing well until we got water on it regularly and we deep mulched it, and I gave it some chicken manure, and then later I gave it some 10-10-10. I got it moving. But they should grow faster than that. They should get bigger, and if they don't have enough water and if they don't have the nutrition, they will just sit. It's a problem. Indiana Berry. Okay, thank you, Rosehaven Farms. Nice to see you. Drew's Food Forest and Edible Landscaping says, my little starfruit tree I grew from seed in Virginia is doing good. Virginia! That's awesome! Oh my goodness. JE says, you're not the only one with the seed addiction, David. Yeah. I have to have an accountability group. Keep me from looking at them catalogs. He doesn't even talk to me anymore. He's just got his nose buried in a catalog. It's like, lettuce, black seed and Simpsons. I don't even know what black seed and Simpsons are. I don't even want to know. Oh my gosh. BIP says rice biochar is great and uses, oh, that is cool. And it has silica. Silica, anything's got silica in it is awesome. Horsetail, man. Drew says, I'm working on my agroforestry project next year along the driveway. Awesome. How do we get in a purple choy? Oh my gosh. Arkansas Woodcutter says, my territorial seed catalog came in today and the wife threatened to throw it away. Does she not realize it's compostable? You got to compost it after you've looked through it 300 times and circled things. Dana, have a good night. God bless. Amanda says, a $10 super chat. It says, Merry Christmas. I've learned a lot from you and I appreciate your work. Well, Merry Christmas. Thank you very much. Much appreciated. It was a good year. You know, we're still here. Though here is a different place than we started at the beginning of the year. We are not your accountability groups. Yes, definitely not. Paul says, David, would you add fertilizer now for Orlando's small trees? No, I wouldn't feed them until February. Derek says, remember, come spring, I'll give you a bunch of stuff, David, if you want. Yes, definitely. That would be awesome. I would like to, I'm going to plant a food forest, a little mini food forest in the turnaround area of the driveway. My landlord is like blown away that I'm getting stuff to grow. They've owned this property. His family's owned this property for over 100 years. And um, he said, all the good soil that's in Alabama, the Black Belt is a little north of here or further south. You can get right near the beach. He says, why did they settle in the midst of this horrible, gritty, sandy area where it's nothing but acid soil and gravel? He says, I have no idea. But when he's seen how the gardens have done, he's like, he keeps bragging to other people that I know. They're like, hey, he was telling us he can't believe you're growing such nice turnips out there, and that this is happening, and so what he said is any fruit trees that I want to plant, he'll take it out of the rent. So I like that. So I'm just gonna order fruit trees and take it out of the rent. Put fruit trees all around the front yard. Now the hard thing is getting him to agree to let me cut down some of the big trees here and replace them with fruit trees. Like, there are a ton of pines, and there are a lot of these ugly scrubby oaks. I'd love to take some of those scrubby oaks down and put in, some nut trees and some pears and things like that, and chop the scrubby oaks up into hunks and stick them around and let them rot down into the ground, because right now they're eating up what there is of decent soil and shading a lot of stuff. So, I think that you could really do a lot of cool stuff with this property with some selective thinning and then composting what you thin. There were a lot of sparkleberries in the woods and a lot of wild blueberries, and some of them are very heavily shaded by oaks and by yaupon hollies, and there's some ilex glabra out there. Some of those things I would cut down and feed to the blueberries to encourage the blueberries, and I would also graft into the sparkleberries. I think that would be really cool, because if the sparkleberries have a really good root system, but you can graft rabbit eye blueberries or southern highbush blueberries on top of those sparkleberry root systems, and then you get like a super scrappy blueberry that can handle worse soil and needs less care, but it's going to produce a commercial blueberry rather than those kind of grainy, semi-sweet, sour sparkleberries. They're not very good to eat. I eat them, but that's because they're full of anthocyanins. Plus, they're just there, so I eat them. Yeah, Derek says you could use the oaks for gourmet mushroom logs. That's not a bad idea at all. But I'm excited about spring. So the preparation right now, we found a manure mine across the street down the block, and so I paid some of my kids to haul loads of composted manure from the pile. There's a guy that keeps cows out there, and they don't spray anything on the field, and he doesn't feed them except on there. So that's kind of safe, and there were also tomatoes growing in it, so I know that it's not been contaminated with immunopurulents, but I don't trust buying any manure, so we'll see. Betty, I actually think you're the Betty that I sent a letter to today. If you are the Elizabeth in Ocala who sent me a letter. I think I actually just mailed you today. Bad Drivers of Columbus, Georgia says, it is unfortunate the sparkleberries aren't all that great to eat. They're the most common vaccinium here. They are nice looking though. Yeah, they are really pretty. They're gorgeous. Like, I would put them in my landscaping, just because they look good. And, they'll feed the birds, and they have pretty little flowers in the spring. And they're just the coolest looking gnarly trunks, Diana, hey, that's a good prayer. Blaine and I will start praying for your landlord to love the idea of cutting down those scrubby oaks and replace them with whatever you want. Yeah, he has been very impressed with what's grown so far. And why not? So, anyhow, anybody got any more gardening questions? I mean, I think right now. Okay, good. Good, cool. Elizabeth, I have a letter coming your way. But if if history is any indicator, when there is a massive amount of money printing that takes place, like has happened this last year, if you look at the money supply, it's absolutely insane. It's really a good idea to go and, hold on to some silver coins, some gold coins, ammunition, that kind of thing, just in case. Because and if you can be growing more of your own food, I think that's really one of the best things you can do is think, okay, this next year we're going to use the skills that we got in the garden and we are going to plant more. And we're going to take that extra spot that we've been talking about, maybe putting a garden in or that area of grass and, prepare it, get it rolling. And I think that it would be a really good idea to be planning right now, just in case. We don't know if it's going to go inflation or if all the debts are going to explode as businesses go under and all that kind of stuff, because a lot of businesses went under this year, and I know multiple people that have been hurt pretty bad, and so financially we're going to be having some issues, I think, that are going to be a fallout of this really tough year, and 2021 will be difficult, I think, for a lot of us. So I think I would have my seeds ahead of time, I would plan to plant more staple crops than you normally plant, because if you got more potatoes in the ground, sweet potatoes in the ground, if you live in a more tropical climate, put in some cassava, taro, that kind of thing. Think of, dry beans. If you're further north, you might do some grain corns like flint corn, dry beans, some, squash. Yeah, Ev says gold, lead, silver, dirt. Good ideas. Yeah. Apothecary Custom says, would you grow giant taro in Central Florida for its root crop and leaves? Yeah, I grew taro in North Florida and did well. So. Karen said, had to go to the gun show to get ammo for one of my weapons because the store didn't have any more. Yeah, I've had difficulty keeping our sidearms stocked properly. It would be nice to be able to do some more, spend some more time shooting, but it's like the price of ammo and the difficulty of getting it makes it really hard to go out and brush up, Betty says, so we might be moving, so I have 30-gallon buckets with good soil and plan to do my garlic tomorrow. Is it too late having garden withdrawal? I would plant it anyways. I mean, what do you got to lose? So a few cloves, Lynn says, I use this downtime in the garden and crochet a lot. What else do you do? I paint. Lately, I've been painting more. I'll show you. The painting behind me, right there, a friend of mine. I painted that. I told her she looked like the lady on a cigar label, and I asked her if I could paint her, one of my friend's wives. I said, man, you've got like that classic Spanish cigar label, like from 100 years ago, Cuban cigar label look. I said, can I paint your portrait like a cigar label? And she said, sure. So I painted that portrait. I did this one. This is a little painting I did. It's a little 8x10. This is my youngest daughter. And I did this the other day. I was experimenting with some limited palettes. I've been looking and reading like how the old masters and some of the painters used color and which colors they used. So I did a less saturated palette as an experiment. This is just acrylics because I was painting with the kids, and I didn't want to accidentally, mix up my oils with their acrylics, and I wanted to show them how to mix colors. So, that's what I do in my spare time. Some painting, and I do a lot of writing. I don't really have much spare time, I guess, because I like to fill it up with doing cool stuff. Spent a lot of my spare time lately being sick, which is funny because I normally don't get that sick. I mean, I was putting kelp meal in my smoothies and stuff just to get all those extra minerals. Donna says, I got a 32 quarter in my change the other day. That's awesome. I like to buy the silver quarters by the rolls and stuff them away. And I like to give kids, like my nieces and nephews and my kids, like a silver quarter here and there, or a silver $50 if it's their birthday. It's pretty cool. But Lynn, my my grandmother was really good at crocheting and loved it. She made some beautiful stuff. I love handicrafts of all sorts. I don't know how to do any of that kind of thing, but I paint. uh, Let me see here. Donald Larson says, do you start all seeds outside? I don't have an indoor setup. Planting outside seems to invite pests unless I start the seeds in a stack of shelves, then transplant seedlings. Yeah, generally I start everything outside. I used to have a greenhouse that I would grow in, but you know, my whole life got turned upside down this year. I'm starting over again, and I don't have a greenhouse, and I'm renting again, you know. So this year I will probably start stuff in flats and then just bring them in and out if it gets cold. I'd like to have them in the sun. Foo Bear says, did you do any market research when you were doing the nursery thing, or did you just have a high enough involvement to know what to grow to sell? No, I planted a bunch of stuff, and then I told people why these things were awesome, and most of them sold. I had some things that didn't work, you know. Yeah, Alan says it's a big baby. Well, she's over a year old, and the painting is larger than actual life. But the market side of things is, you know, you grow a bunch of stuff that you're interested in, and you put it out and you see what people do, you know. Some things, like the first year I grew chaya and sold it, people didn't want it because they heard it was poisonous until it was cooked. But after that, you know, it started to pick up, and I kept writing about it. And one of the greatest things to sell stuff is to not sell stuff you don't like or you don't believe in. See, the big stupid thing people do is they sell stuff that they don't love. If you love some particular thing, right? Like, let's say you love heirloom roses. I don't care about heirloom roses personally, but if somebody had a plant nursery and they had all these heirloom roses, and they're like, David, you have to see this one. You know, this one is from one that Lord Nelson actually had. And he did this, or some story, right? So you're like, you know, this variety is 300 years old. Or this variety makes the highest vitamin C of any rose hips. And the blooms are these really cool big single blooms, and it'll ramble and it'll climb up your wall. I would start to get interested because you're interested. And so when you tell the good story and you have an interesting thing because it's something that you love. See, the sleazy sales stuff is to say, you know, well, you know what you really need? You really need this vacuum, because this vacuum is, you know, we can give it to you on $2.99 a month for the next 15 months, and it does this and it does this, and it's like, you know, don't really need that. But it's easy if you actually totally love it. You will sell it better if you got the best vacuum in the world and you were using it in your house and you're like, dude, check this out. Look at this vacuum. This thing's crazy. It's different than trying to cold sell somebody on something you don't actually believe in. So if you love it and you are engaging and you just share what you love, it will sell because you will connect with people and they'll get interested in it. I didn't realize this so much. I mean, in my home-based nursery book that I wrote, I tell the story of how I wrote an article on how much I love mulberries, and then suddenly people were showing up at my nursery to buy mulberries, and I didn't put two and two together until this woman. I said, "Why did you want mulberries? Hardly anybody's asking for mulberries." And she says, "Well, I read this article in this local magazine." I said, "Oh, I wrote that article," and she goes, "Oh, you did?" She was just there like, "Do you have any mulberries?" And she said, "I've been asking everybody if they have mulberries." I was like, "I have a mulberry." But I didn't put two and two together. I just love mulberries, so I wrote this great article about mulberries, the easiest to grow berry for our area. It's so much fun. Hey, Savannah, have a good night. You know, And suddenly it's like I couldn't sell enough mulberry. There are mulberry sales like crazy all over Florida right now, and I'm pretty sure it's because I started that ball rolling 4, 5, 6 years or more ago, and I got excited about mulberries because I just was testing every berry that I could find, and they ended up doing really, really well for me. And then, other people were excited about mulberries too, but they hadn't really written about it or talked about it that much. And once people discovered what a cool thing it was, then it just kind of sells itself. So, cabbage is a staple, not the pests. All Night says, should I leave my leaf mulch on top of the soil or till it in? I would leave the mulch on top of the soil because it's very high in carbon. If you till it under, it's going to soak up the nitrogen for the next season. Paul says, imagine what a pain it is to find a grape that likes your soil. Probably the muscadines. There are wild muscadines here, so I think that some of the muscadine varieties would do well. Anna says, maple leaf or ornamental chaya? It was the maple leaf type was the one that I made the most of because it was the best variety. That was the one I propagated the most. But I sold both of them. One of them is better for the butterflies than anything else. It's a little more woody. It's not as awesome, So the maple leaf variety I like better. But I think that Sam at Scrubland Farms, who sells in the Ocala area, he's got another variety of it that had a little different shape. It was supposed to be very good. So I want to thank you all for showing up tonight. I'm sorry that I have not been that accessible, but I am very glad to be on the other side of being ill. And, I hope you all had a very nice Christmas, and I hope you have a wonderful New Year's. I am going to be traveling soon, and hopefully I'm going to get to visit the South Florida Food Forest soon and film a new video, which will be really cool. I'm excited about that. I'd like to see what's going on because I planned a whole bunch of stuff back in August, and there's been a lot of rain, and it was fed, and so we should see, some cool stuff. And I'll get to work on it a couple of times and get things together, Phil says, any tips for propagation of cherry tree cuttings? No, I'm not sure. I would probably try spring and semi-hardwood cuttings. I'm not sure. I have not tried them. If that doesn't work from cuttings, though, I bet you would have better success with air layering. So I want to say thank you for the super chats. Thank you to Karen and Ev and Joseph. Thank you very much. And Alejandra and Amanda. God bless you all. And have a good night. I will try to come back and do another stream very soon here, and I have to do some videos out in the garden as well. We'll get around to it eventually. But hey, it's the winter season. It's hard to even my plants don't want to grow. So have a very good night, and until next time, may your thumbs always be green.